Hey guys, Colnator coming at you live here from Game Parade. And you know what? Recently I have noticed that a lot of people, for the first time, are playing Minecraft. You know, the game's been out for quite some time, and now they're starting to get around to it. A lot of people are starting to get around to it. I've found a lot of Twitch streamers that have never played it in all the time it's been out. I've played it a lot since growing up. I would argue it's one of my childhood games. Like, seriously, I'm 23 years old, so 10 years ago, I'd be 13, 14 by the time, I was playing Minecraft. And it definitely kind of, a lot of the aspects of the game itself, as well as the community and multiplayer, it's all kind of helped me grow up, I would say. So, what I want to do is actually, I want to make a video on how to make a Minecraft server so you can play with your friends as well. So, there's going to be four things you're going to need in order to make a server. So the first thing you're going to need is you're going to need a computer capable of playing Minecraft. It doesn't necessarily have to be your computer. However, in the beginning, maybe you want to do it on your computer before you kind of venture off and use somebody else's. The second thing you're going to want to need is you're going to need your home router credentials. So this can either be provided by your ISP, as they might manage your router at home. Other users might have access to this, so other people in the household might have access to it, as well as if it's something that nobody's really touched or configured at all, it might have the default settings. So you might have to look up the model that you have and look at the default username and password. The third thing you're going to need is your internal IP address and gateway IP address. To be able to obtain those, all you need to do is if you go to start, if you're in Windows 7 or 10, this part shouldn't really matter, but you should be able to look up command prompt. And what you can do is that when you pull that up, you can actually type in the command ipconfig, and it'll actually show you your IPv4 address, which is what we're going to need, as well as a default gateway. And the reason we're going to need a default gateway is because more than likely that is the IP address for your router. And the last thing you're going to need to know is you need to determine the RAM and CPU in your computer. So if you're on Windows 10, all you need to do is go to the start menu and just type in about your PC. And then it'll actually pull up a screen that's going to have device specifications that will show you the processor as well as the installed RAM. So in my case, it's an i7 2600K processor, and for the RAM, it's 16 gigs, which is more than capable of running a Minecraft server. For at least what I would recommend for a bare minimum is about 4 gigs of RAM if you absolutely have to kind of bare bone it. The more the merrier in this case. When it comes to processor, really i3 processors and up should be okay. If you have like a Celeron or some sort of like really low-end processor, even no matter how much RAM you really have on your computer, you may notice latency and delays when you're playing the game on the server. So, now that we got the prerequisites out of the way, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to actually get the Minecraft files. So first we're going to open up our browser, and we're going to go to minecraft.net. So I'll just kind of go to the beginning, minecraft.net, and you can go to the menu upper right corner here, and if you go to trial and download, it will take you to a page where you can download the server software. You scroll down, and there'll be two options. There'll be the Java edition, and then just the normal server software. So for this tutorial, we're only going to be using the Java edition only because it's like the one I really know. I haven't had a chance to play with the other one at all yet, so I'm not sure if it's any better, but for this, we're going to be using the Java edition. So what you can do is you click on Get It Here, and then it'll take you to another page that'll actually have a link to the actual jar or the server file we're going to need. And what you want to do actually is you do want to download the file. But what I would recommend doing is that you don't just put it in your downloads folder, you instead make a whole folder for it, for the Minecraft server. So what I'm going to do is actually for my desktop, I'm going to make a folder, and I'm going to call it Minecraft Server. And then once I go into that folder, this is where I'm going to save it to. Now you don't want to close this quite yet here because the next step, this line right here of code, we're actually going to need that in just a minute to kind of show you some ways you can actually tweak your server and make it a bit better and have a better playing experience. For a moment, we can minimize it and go to our Minecraft server folder. So what's going to happen is that when you open your Minecraft server folder, it'll be just the jar file itself. And if you execute it for the first time, what's going to happen is basically nothing's going to pop up, but you're going to see some files are going to load in for you. So, and the reason it does this is because it wants you to accept the end user license agreement first. So you're going to have to open up the EULA text document here. And to agree to this, you're going to basically end up getting this. You're going to have this window, and you want to agree to it by just what it says EULA equals false. You want to turn that end part to true. Now, once you save it, you can close it, and now you can launch the server.jar file again. And now what'll happen is you'll see kind of like a GUI or a GUI that'll pop up here, and that'll be kind of the initial part. Kind of like this is, I guess, kind of the basic where you'll see and be able to manage your Minecraft server. For the most part, once it's done loading your world, this is all you really need to do. If you want to get away with kind of default settings, according to the Minecraft wiki, the default settings is 100 megabytes, which is really weird. Why I would recommend about a gig at minimum for about 2 to 3 people, per 2 to 3 people really, for a really good playing experience. But however, you see on the left side here, it says it's using about 300, 400 megabytes, even, and it's going up kind of as we speak. So not really sure how accurate that part is, but let's just say for the sake that it is accurate, it's not using this as much as it's saying it is, or you want to use more. Maybe you have an absurd amount of RAM. Maybe you have 16 gigs RAM like I do, and you know that you can get away with a lot more than default. So now all you really need to do is that we actually want to go back to, well, we can close this for the moment, but we can go back to the Minecraft website, and remember that little piece of code we needed? We're actually going to want to copy that. And what we're going to want to do is that in the folder where we have the server.jar file in, we're going to want to open up, make a brand new document. In this case, I'll just call it server.txt. And in that server.txt, we're going to want to copy and paste that code. So what this code does is that it tells Java when it launches any sort of, like a Java application like this, it'll launch it initially with 1024 megabytes, which is a gig of RAM. And then at most, the server will only use up to a gig of RAM. And then the next part is going to be very important. You need to change this specifically for what you're going to use. But it's going to say, okay, for the jar file that you're going to launch, by default, it'll show this. But we need to make sure that we turn this into the file we downloaded. If you go remember back to what we downloaded it actually, which is called server.jar. So in this case, that's what we're going to change it to. It's just server.jar. And then no GUI. That's just, instead of getting that one little window you saw earlier, you're going to instead get a command prompt window that'll actually manage your server. Now, before you save this and close this, one last thing you're going to need to do is you're actually going to want to save as, and you're going to want to save the as type. Make sure that's set to all files. And you're actually going to want to save this as a bat file. So server.bat at the end. And what this does is that instead of being a text file where you open it and you read it, it'll actually execute it as a script, and then that'll actually start up your server. So you won't have to type in the command every time or anything like that. You simply click on the batch file, and it'll actually launch your server. So now that we've done that, we've saved everything here. We want to go to our server.batch file we just made, and we can simply launch it. And now what's going to happen is that instead of that window we saw earlier, it's actually going to launch it all in this black window with a command prompt. So the really cool part about what we made with that script is that you're actually able to modify it and make changes to how much RAM you want to put into your server. For the demonstration, I'm going to leave it at 1 gig. However, if you have, like I said, 16 gigs of RAM earlier, you can actually change this. And simply all you need to do is just in the code, you can actually say, okay, I want 4 gigs of RAM in the server. You'd actually just go to the beginning part of it here and change it to 4G. 4G will still translate it to 4 gigs. And for the most part, I would probably keep both the initial amount it uses to launch as well as the maximum amount it wants to use to launch relatively the same. If anything, you definitely want the maximum to be more than the initial. So I'm not going to save that, but that's just a demonstration of kind of how you could apply more RAM. And there we go. The server is done loading, and we can actually jump into our server right now. So if I open up Minecraft here, actually I'll use normal Minecraft launcher just for this demonstration. But if you open up Minecraft and get it launched, and then once you launch the game here, remember the IP address that I asked you to kind of get in the beginning from that command prompt? So you have 2 ways to go about doing this. For the sake of this tutorial, I will put in just the IP address. So in this case, it's 192.168.10.6, and it can do join server. It'll do encrypting part, and you'll see it even loads my name, Colnator, and now I'm in the world. And now I can go off and do Minecraft things. But, you know, the thing about the way we just set up the server here is that this only works if people on your network, as in if they're basically in the household in the same place, can play on the Minecraft server. So really in this case, you want to give them this IP address, they can connect, you have nothing more else you can do. However, if you have friends like I do, where some of my friends are across the world and are not even within the same state as you, or even the same country for that matter, you're going to need to do a couple more steps, and I'll show you kind of a very general way you can go about doing it. Unfortunately, the home router credentials I asked you to get earlier are going to be a bit customized to kind of what you have. But just for philosophy's sake, I will go through kind of how I would go about doing it. So first, I would go to the default gateway. I would go to 192.168.10.1. In my case, I'm already logged in because I logged in earlier. And for most routers that I've encountered, when you're going to want to make the change that we're going to make, the thing we're going to make a change to is called port forwarding, and what it does is opens a port up on your router to the open world. Now, before we continue on, I do want to kind of express and stress as well that when you give out your public IP address here to people, you want to give this out to trusted people. You don't want to give this out to just anybody and everybody. You want to give this out to people, because if you just give this out, or I should say you want to give this out to friends or people you trust. Because if you give this out to anybody and let's say things don't go a certain way and they get mad, next thing you know you've been DDoS and now you don't have internet. And it can be a really stressful experience. So now with that out of the way here, what I would do in this section, I would actually go to my security down here. Luckily for me, my router actually has apps in gaming. A lot of routers, more than likely, they're going to just have port forwarding or port triggering is what you might see. I'm going to go to apps and gaming, and in this case, we're only going to open one port, so single port forwarding is more than enough. I'll delete this and make a new one for you guys. But all we're going to do is we're going to name the application. This part normally doesn't matter. You might get a drop down, and I would probably choose other or a game very similar to it that you can recognize. And for Minecraft, you're actually going to want to have the port 25565 for the external port and internal port. For the protocol, you can choose both, and then make sure the IP address, the device IP, matches up with that IP address that you're going to give to you would give to your friends on the internal network. So in this case, for me, it's 192.168.10.6. Now, once you click on save and apply, you're good to go. So to get your external IP address, what you want to do is you actually want to go to what's my IP. For the sake of the video, I actually will blank out what my IP address is, of course. But in this section over here, you will see the IP address that you want to give out to people. So all they're going to need is this IP address, and they'll be able to join your server and play with you as well. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening to my tutorial. I hope this helped you in some sort of way. This is coming from somebody that has played a ton of Minecraft, played on a ton of servers, have ran a bunch of servers, and I'm just happy I'm able to bring out that knowledge and help you guys get your own servers for you and your friends. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.